Um, there it is. Oh my god, I'm live on YouTube and I'm showing my face? Wow. I don't even know how to do this properly. Hello. You're always... Hi. You're always the first one to join my streams, no matter what. And to like my pictures. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm just gonna post that online. Oh, that means a lot. Thank you. This is an ugly picture of me. Oh well. Maybe I should link it. Can I? Yes, I can. Wow. Okay. I'll see if we can find like something to listen to in the background. I found, there it is. It means something went wrong. Okay. Well, what should I listen to then? Can I, how does this work? Can I like pull up the whole, there we go. Three Days Grace. I want something like, maybe I can put on some lo-fi. Because I don't want it to like overpower my voice. Lo-fi. Sorry, I had to. Hi, Dad. Hi, MJ. Ow! I hit myself in the face. I don't know if this is any good.
Just move on up toward your destination.
No. I could put on some Zelda and chill. I don't know if it picks up. Why can't I see? I can use effects? Spoopy. I'm just gonna go with normal. I wish I could like see the full chat at all times. But yes. Hi. I'm currently sitting in my garage. That's why you see this beautiful ceiling. I'm sorry. And my parents doesn't like that I record or do live streams in the garage because it shows the mess. The rest of our house is like completely neat, clean at almost all times, except for the garage, where I decide to film my videos and do my live streams. Anyways, how am I gonna do this? I have no planner. MTV Cribs, IS Garage, yes. I need to turn off notifications on my phone as well, because otherwise I'm gonna get those when live streaming. What do you have for the class today? Well, actually, I'm gonna pause the music, because even though I'd like to have some background music for everyone, I'm just like, ADHD brain, I can't concentrate if there's something else, because then my brain hyper focuses on the sound instead of the things that I'm gonna say or read, and then I end up not being able to talk. I didn't do a plan for this at all. I was just like, I want to read some stuff. I want to talk about my characters and my stories, because that's something I've been wanting to do for a very long time, but haven't gotten around to. Because I've not been in a good headspace to record videos and edit them, and then, you know, all that stuff. It takes a lot. So I'm just, you know, I've been thinking of making a live stream, talking about it, but now I don't really know how to do it. How do you do one of these? I don't know. I've already been live for like 9 minutes. What? And I haven't gotten started. But I'm gonna be making stupid faces, I'm sorry. But I guess, hi. You're doing great, sweetie. Thank you. Hi. I'm Aya, Maya, Octi, whatever you want to call me. You can call me whatever you want. I have many names. I'm pretty sure if you've followed me on Instagram, Twitter, DeviantArt, YouTube for a while, you definitely know of my characters. Specifically the ones that are called the Baylors. Because, you know, I draw them a lot. I draw them a whole lot. And I've built a following because of it. A lot of my followers know me by either my Wanahara content or my original characters with monster hair. But what most people don't know is the story, and specifically the story of everything else revolving around. Oh my god, I have 7 watchers. Hi, where are you coming from? This is already overwhelming. Hi. But I guess I'll try to give a small summary. All of my characters are a part of a bigger story. All of my species that I've made, all of my original characters are all part of the same universe. It's just separated into multiple different smaller stories, I guess. I guess the reason why I decided to make it in the first place was because I think humans are boring, and I wanted to see if I could create like a fun planet of some sort, kind of inspired by Pokemon, to be honest, in a way, but you know. So the planet or the universe that I've created is called Wild. That's the name of the planet that all of my characters live on, I guess. And yeah, I guess it's not done. This stream is not like, all the information I'm talking about now can change and I will make a better explanation another time, but this will just be like a foreground, I guess, because usually when I write, I'm bad at knowing where to start, and that's why I wanted to make this stream, so maybe I can talk about it, and then when I'm writing about it, I can use the stream as like a base. I don't know. So I have a script here of how the planet was created, and like how the universe itself got created, the beginning, like the beginning of the world. Excuse me. I'm gonna take a sip of water before we start. Again, this is a work in progress. I still want to change this script specifically, but this is what I got so far, and I want to share. I guess this chapter is called The Story of Eden, the Beginning of the World Wild. Ligma. Dad. Out. Go out. The door's there. Don't ruin this now. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm good. Don't get distracted. Okay. I hope you can hear me properly too. Once upon a time, a god was born from a supernova in a galaxy far, far away from the Milky Way. From the very start of the god's life, it felt sad and lonely. For many years, it searched for another life form to connect with. After a long time of searching through the galaxy and not finding anything, it gave up and settled down on a nice planet it thought would make a nice home. It was the perfect size and in a good position of the solar system. The sun was at the right, perfect position, which made it possible for life to grow. The god noticed plants were already growing slightly and decided to share its power with its new home, to make it grow faster and bigger. At first, the god created the lands, flowers, trees, mountains, and oceans. When the place was a beautiful playground, it wanted to test its powers even further. It could create life as flowers and trees, so why shouldn't it be able to create life as a living entity? If it could create another life form, it didn't have to search for one. From the feathers of its own wings, and part of its own soul's energy, the god transformed them into the first species to walk the land. They were like angels. They were like angels. Sorry. Please excuse my bad reading. I might have dyslexia on top of ADHD, so that's why. Anyways. They were like angels, the god's own little servants, yet they were more like its own children. They were 2 males and 2 females. It was no longer alone, however, it wanted to bring more life to its home that has grown very precious to it. Thank you. It wanted more things to enjoy the beautiful playground it had created. So, it tried creating life from other things. It created another species through the pretty flowers growing up from the ground and made a soul out of the star's energy. The next was made of can I do it like this? Yes, I can. Oh my god. Sorry. Okay. It wanted more things to enjoy the beautiful playground it had created, so it tried creating life from other things. It created another species through the pretty flowers growing up from the ground and made a soul out of the star's energy. The next was made of a drop of ocean water, another from a tree branch, and so on and so forth. And they were to grow and evolve later on by themselves. It even created a species out of a piece of the moon and another of the flame of the sun. The god, its children, and its people were living peacefully together for many years. Then, one day, suddenly a portal opened up on an open field, and a human man put his foot on the land. He stared in awe and yelled in delight before poking his head back into the portal. Just a couple of seconds later, 3 other people walked out from the portal. They all cheered with joy before eagerly running off to explore this new world. After a while, the god took a notice to the newcomers and approached them. He spoke to them through telepathy and befriended them. Eden was the name given to the god of this planet they also named Wild. They explained how they were human scientists from another planet, Earth, trying to build a time machine but accidentally built a portal to this other world. From the very first sight, Eden fell in love with the small creatures. He was always surrounded by creatures he himself had created. Seeing a completely different life form, seeing a completely different life form from another world was fascinating to him. Like the scientists analyzed Eden's creatures, Eden himself analyzed the scientists. He was very curious about them and asked hundreds of questions. He asked why one of them wore glasses, why males and females looked different from each other, and why they were wearing clothes, and so much more. At this time, he wasn't able to speak through words, only through telepathy. After becoming close friends with the scientists, he took the form of a human and begged the scientists to teach him how to be just like them. So they taught him how to talk, gave him some clothes and a name, and taught him all about human history and laws. After mastering the way of living as a human, he gave his own creatures a gift, the gift to transform into human hybrids. He had realized living as a human made himself happier. He was now able to feel human emotions and think in a much intelligent way. His creatures could now evolve into something much more greater and bigger than ever before. Not only did he give his creatures the ability to turn into humans, he also created new species out of material the humans brought him. He created a robot dog species out of electronics, a cute critter species out of sweets like candy and cakes, a zombie-like cat species out of cloth and fabric, and many others. Ugh, oh my god. Eden is able to take the form of anything he desires, from the creatures he creates, to humans, to plants and flowers. He builds his physical form from what he desires. His body is light as a feather. The only thing that weighs is his core. His core is both his brain and heart. His body isn't able to be cut through, since it's built by impacted energy and gases. If you wanted to hurt him, aim for his core, shatter it, and his body will evaporate. There we go. He's a very curious soul with a kind heart. He wants to learn everything about the unknown so he can use it to continue creating his art. He loves all of his creations equally and would do anything to please his people. While he doesn't have a physical gender, and he can pretty much turn into anything he wants, he doesn't really care what people call him. But he decided to go with male pronouns to make it easier for everyone. Okay. Why am I shaky? Hi. When cities and kingdoms were built, Eden gave his 4 children their own kingdom, making them kings and queens. He was the god, and his children were the rulers to make sure everything was at peace. One male of his 4 children later fell in love with another bird-like species, and then Thomas were born, a white peacock. He was an only child, and Eden's only grandchild. They were very close, and Eden had said, if anything were to happen to your father, you would be the one rising to become the next king, taking his place. Of course, no one believed that would happen, at least so soon. Out of nowhere, 3 of the 4 scientists told Eden the 4th scientist had grown paranoid over something Eden had stated to them before, and was now planning to take him down, in fear he was going to come to Earth and take over their planet. All because Eden said, your world seems so chaotic. You all fight with no reason. You kill not to survive, but because you want to. It's not balanced. Maybe I could help with that. I could perhaps fix your broken world and make it better. That one scientist didn't take it very well, so he contacted the government and planned an attack to kill Eden. He showed proof of his existence and told them that if they didn't stop Eden, he would come to their world and fuck things up. He was a crazy man, paranoid over every little thing. The other 3 scientists promised to stay at Eden's side, but that also meant they would be risking their life to protect him. Eden felt betrayed and sad, having one of his friends planning to kill him. His people and his children protected Eden, taking him to a safe space when the humans attacked. Portals opened up everywhere, and humans and big machines with guns plundered the lands. Since they couldn't find Eden, they decided to kill and destroy everything they could to try and lure him out. No matter how badly his children tried to hold him back, Eden couldn't just sit back and watch everything he had worked so hard on get destroyed. He headed out into war with them, and while Eden was strong, he wasn't fast enough to stop them before they destroyed everything. He came across a past battlefield, dead bodies covering the ground. The sky was a deep red, filled with smoke from the fire growing on the trees and grass around him. He walked on heavy legs, looking out at his once beautiful creation burning to dust. Then his eyes shot wide open, as he discovers the corpse of his own children. Their bodies were mangled and bloody, burning up in flames. He falls to his knees and cries in agony by the lifeless bodies of his beloved children. Yet again, he was all alone. More and more keeps appearing. I won't be able to stop them all in time, but at this rate, Wild will be completely destroyed before I can stop them. I will have to start from scratch. I've already lost my family. I don't want to lose everything else. I don't want to lose anything else. I won't let more blood spill. I won't let more blood spill. I refuse. There we go. He had made up his mind. If sacrificing himself for his planet was the only way to save it, he would do it. He stepped off the ground and flew high up in the air, focusing his power before releasing a blinding light from his core. It hit the ground, and as the light touched the humans, they disintegrated to ash. The light covered the entire surface of the planet, creating a barrier around it. Eden's last words before he too disintegrated into nothingness, he said, "Any living soul stepping on these grounds who does not have my power flowing in through their veins will die an immediate death." Never will I let my creation and home get brought to destructions by entities from the outside world. My celestial body will fade, but my soul will remain as a shield. I'm a fool who will now pay the price of being naive. This is my punishment, but as long as Wild is okay, I don't mind giving my life for it, if that's what I have to do. I'm sorry. Goodbye. While the light completely obliterated every single human, Eden's own species were healed. Sadly, it could not bring back the lives that were lost. All 4 of Eden's children had died in the war. Many other species were slaughtered. But everything was not completely gone. Now, creatures of Wild would grow by themselves and live a life of what they wanted. They either chose to continue living as humans or go back to wildlife. And that's like the... No, that was so sad! And here I am sitting laughing. But yeah, that's like the small summary of the beginning. I do want to fix a couple of wordings, and I hope my reading wasn't too terrible. Again, I have the issues reading. Where's the... there it is. I love how deep and sorrowing this story is. Thank you. Sorry, I need to blow my nose for a second. Thank you. I appreciate it. So, that's where the Baylor family comes in. Like many, many, many years later after Eden's death. You know, more and more species are like dying out, mostly because of how evolution works. Interspecies, like, what is it called? Interspecies relationship became more and more, not popular, but it became more and more frequent, and that created new species, but that also made old species die. So, how should I explain that? Common? Yeah. Yeah, right. Interspecies relationship became very common. And there was, and especially, this species called a bee sloth. Why am I laughing? I'm so worried that it's not gonna make sense. Hang with me. There was this species named a bee sloth, an ostrich type of bird species that were slowly dying out, basically. It was getting more and more rare. And there was this one little girl who was a bee sloth, whose name was Rose Baylor. She brought, she noticed that she didn't see a lot of other people who were the same species as her. So she brought the fact up to her mom, like, hey, why am I not seeing what? Jada! Sorry, no, I get distracted. Okay. What was I saying? Right. There was this little girl, Rose Baylor, who brought up the fact to her mom that I don't see a lot of other people outside of our family that is the same species as us. Why is that? her mom told the story of the war and explained the reason why their species is slowly dying out. And at a very young age, Rose decided it would be that she wanted to try and save her species because she really loved her species. She loved her family. She thought the bee sloth was a very beautiful species, so she wished to save it. So when she grew old, she decided to contact a bunch of men from the same species and not make a contract in a way to form a family. She offered them a good place to stay and all of that if they helped her with the breeding, you know. My head. So she she got in contact with a bunch of other male hey, let's make babies, yes. She found a bunch of other male bee sloths and decided to you need to stop eating, sorry. This is not good. Anyway. She decided to make a bunch of babies in a desperate attempt to save her species. She was very naive to think that her alone could save the species, but she was dedicated. She believed that she could if she just went through with it. The sad thing is that since they are a bird, they lay eggs, and they can only lay one egg at a time. And the mother has to be with the egg constantly to keep it warm, otherwise the child will die. So Rose was basically bedridden her entire life. She had to stay in bed incubating eggs while all the men, or then later on her children, had to bring her food or bring her to the bathroom and help her take a shower and all of that, which would later make her end up withering away, I guess. She lost a lot of weight. She years later, she lost the ability to walk because she was sitting in bed all day. Let's see. And let's fucking think here. Okay. So, okay. Going back a little bit, the first man that Rose had a child with was named Baron, and her first child was Troy. And despite the species being a very colorful bird, them also priding themselves of their color and their beautiful fur, Troy was born colorless, which made his father extremely disappointed because his dad really wanted a very colorful child. He got disappointed that his first child didn't end up being colorful. Joy? I swear to God, Jada, every single time, like, you can be zoned out, and I can just name Troy. And you will go crazy. Okay. I wish I could just play my Can I do that? I might be able to do that. Play that certain part in an old video of mine. Maybe it will make more sense then. Let's see here. I'm just gonna. Okay. Okay, let's see here.
Because of it. As long as
Okay. Can I do this? Will it load? Okay. I don't know if it will hear. I hope it will, but.
And for your second question, I don't really know the answer if I'm honest. My brother Cole says I might be a sociopath. He can't really give me a diagnosis though, because he's a
Sorry, this was before the whole sociopath, but this was before the whole sociopath thing from with Shane started. But yeah, I made a question, ask Oliver Baylor question, Q&A video, and someone basically asked like, why did you like? How come you're not able to feel any feelings, basically?
Try to do so. Still, he says that I suit into that category because of my lack of emotions. I think I got it from my dad. Let me give you the full backstory. After the long war between our world and the humans, my species, the beesnoth bird, was about to die out. So, my mother decided it would be her duty to save the beesnoths by breeding with as many men, giving birth to as many children as possible. The first man she had a child with was my father, and their first child was Troy. My father was disgusted over Troy's black fur and almost killed him over it. My mother stopped him, of course, but my father refused to take care of a colorless beesnoth. So he left. A couple of years later, though, he came back as if nothing ever happened. He and my mom then got me, and once again, my father was displeased by my colorless fur. He didn't leave this time, but he refused to continue making children if all of his children would just turn out colorless. Troy was a very troublesome kid, always destroying things, hurting our siblings really bad, getting in fights with other random people, while I did nothing at all. I was like a lifeless doll that everyone just dragged around with them. I didn't speak. I didn't show any sign of emotion or facial expressions. While Troy felt too much, I felt nothing at all.
Okay. I hope that picked up, but yeah, that's basically that's basically it. Let's see here. I wish I could read the. Oh, I can. I'm so dumb. Okay. Oliver's so cute with that red bow in his head. You should redraw that. I should. Younger Troy can still get it. Of course, some things have been changed since then. Like, I toned down. Troy wouldn't, like, try and, like, I don't know, try and stab one of his siblings. He wouldn't do that, but he would want to, but he wouldn't try it. Anyways. should have made bullet points. That's the issue. I hate this. Anyways. My brain a bit small. Troy would probably pick on them a lot, not violent, but maybe if they push his buttons, he'd fight them. Definitely, yes. So, just an idea. Yeah, no, it's true. He would do that. So. I'm just sitting in silence at this point. My brain completely died. I feel terrible. Where was I even? It's such a hard story to explain. But, hey son, are you having fun with your siblings? We play the knife game and like, oh my god. Okay, so, man holding back the violent urge, however, if he had the reason to. Can I see who's, no, I can't. It's not Instagram, you can't see who's watching. Anyways, I want to read this specific script, but I still want to give some context, you know? So, okay, context. Like I showed, Baron, purple hair, homeless looking dude, is the father of Troy and Oliver, as well as Alexis. He was extremely abusive to them, as when they were younger, like even when they were older. You know, he took out his disappointment on them. You know, he only wanted a normal family because he himself didn't have a normal childhood. He was left alone by his parents when he was young. He just really wanted a normal family, and that's why he took Rose's offer, because hey, you know, maybe I can get a family if I join in on this, you know? But because of his pride, he didn't like the fact that his children turned out to be colorless, because for their species, being colorless is deemed as like a birth defect. Because they are such a colorful species, they heavily pride themselves of being beautiful, bright, and lovely, you know? If you lack any color, you are seen as ugly, and yeah. So, brain. This is embarrassing. I'm sorry. I guess I'm just shy. I'm shy. But, at a very young age, I guess Troy, like, he didn't have a lot of friends. He didn't really fit in with the kids at his school or the rest of his family. He kind of shut himself away from his family, in his room, and he read a bunch of books, and stuff like that. and he got really invested in Eden and his story and all of that. And he thought that, you know, the world was very unfair and, you know, all that edgy stuff. He's a very edgy character, I know, but he thought the world was very unfair. And he started to study and try and come up with a way to become a god himself, I guess. I hate you, Troy. I feel like this doesn't make sense to any of you. It makes sense to me because I have everything planned in my head, but I don't think it makes sense to any of you. It's just because I don't understand myself when I speak, but I guess I'll just fucking read it and I'll explain as I go. I can just do that too. Embarrassing. So, the only person Troy was really close to was Oliver. The rest of his family he just hated. So, yeah. Hi! I'm embarrassing myself live. What if you gave the clown chainsaws and then let them into birthday party? Would not fit? No. It would not be fitting. My clowns are not violent. They're very happy and fun. But I'll just read. I'll stop trying to explain because I can't. But so this is what is it called? In this whole script, there are 3 sections. There's one called From Oliver to Troy. Then it's the death of a certain character. And then the funeral. Why is my stomach hurting? Okay. Sadong. So this is From Oliver to Troy. If I can read, that'd be great. It was a completely normal day. Oliver went to pick up a package he had ordered online a while ago. While looking through all the mail and packages that were left on the counter in the kitchen, he saw a package for Troy as well. Since their rooms were close to each other, he decided to bring his package to him too. He walked up the stairs to Troy's room and knocked on his door. He didn't get a response, so after a while, he checked if Troy had left his door unlocked. Surprisingly, he did. He usually always locked his door. Troy? He opened the door and poked his head inside. He couldn't see him, but he could hear a faint sound of sprinkling water. Sounds like he's in the shower, Jonas points out, his parasite. Oliver walks over to his desk and leaves the package for him and sees that Troy has left his journal open. Oliver stares at it for a second. We should probably not read that. He won't mind if it's me. I guess. In the journal it says, October 1st, 7:35 a.m. It's been exactly 1 month since our last sibling was born, Tina. The only thing nice with the new sibling's arrival is that everyone pays less attention to you. Let me try that again. Can I do this? Is this awkward? It's awkward. I'm not doing that. Sorry. My stomach hurts. Okay, let's try this again. October 1st, 7:35 a.m. It's been exactly 1 month since our last sibling was born, Tina. The only thing nice with the new siblings' arrival is that everyone pays less attention to you. I've gotten more time for myself, which was exactly what I needed. Even with the lack of sleep to the never-ending crying from the newborn down the hall, I've been making some great progress on my plan. In fact, it has already started. On one of my walks a couple of days ago, I discovered something amazing. More so, someone. A torn up, thrown away Susig all by itself in a corner of a lonely alleyway. He had apparently gotten himself into a fight and was later left for dead. I took the opportunity, and decided to take him in. I stayed up for hours after borrowing some fabric from Magnus, and got the guy some new limbs. I'm not very good at sewing, but I do know a thing or two I learned when I was a child. They turned out a bit wonky, but he seems to appreciate the new limbs. Currently, he's being kept in the shed no one ever visits. Let's just hope it stays like that for the time being. So what he's talking about, Raggy, you recognize that, yeah. What he's talking about here is a character named Drags, who he found on the street, who is able to take other people's souls, basically. He's a zombie doll type of creature, and that's why Troy's talking about sewing new limbs for him, because he lost limbs. So he was able to sew new limbs for the guy. After helping the poor thing, he immediately accepted my request for him to assist me with my work, even starting calling me Master. He didn't have a name, and since the dude is basically a raggedy old doll, I just decided to nickname him Rags. I'm quite excited to get to work. Now, with Rags' help, I will have no problem moving forwards. While I still got a long road ahead of me before reaching the end goal, with him, I can start collecting the souls needed to obtain Eden's true power. He will be the one taking them, I'll be the one absorbing them, starting with my own father. I've been wanting to get rid of that old man for the longest time now. I know Alexis is after him too, but I can't wait much longer. I can't hold back the itch to destroy that bastard. For each time I see him, it only gets worse. If she won't make a move, I will. When he is over and done with, I'll send dear Mommy along with him to the other side. I don't need both of their souls. All I need is my father's. However, I have a bone to pick with my mother as well. I'll show them all. One day, I will take the role of Wild's new god, and I refuse to let anyone come in between of those dreams. That's final. Why is my stomach hurting? It's great. So yeah, it was just an edgy, journal entry from Troy talking about his plans to become the new god of Planet Wild. I think it's the way I'm sitting. I'm kind of like, what's it called? My body's very tense. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, let's just continue. After reading what Troy wrote, for a split second, Oliver felt a strange feeling in his chest. He put his hand lightly against his chest, pressing his hand close to his heart. He stares at the journal for a second, rereading the last words written before sitting down and turning the page of it. And he writes, "When everyone sleeps at night, you shine the brightest. They can't see the beauty rise with every night. When the oh my God. When the morning comes, the sun does as well. The people wake up only to see the sun shine brighter, making your light fade. The people adore and love the warmth of the sun's beautiful beam. They'd all rather play outside, in the warm, comforting sunlight, than in the cold, creeping darkness. Just like the moon, lonely, sad, and empty, You cry in hopes of being loved one day by the people who looks up at the sun, by the people who you look down upon every night, by the people you love. Just now tonight, I have awoken by your cry. For once in my life, I've noticed you. I looked out the window to see you weeping. Reaching for you, I wiped your tears and stroked your cheek. It will be okay, I said. I'm here, and I see you now. So please, don't cry. Just like the moon, beautiful, bright, and lively. You cried in hopes of being loved one day. The people now look up to you. The people you look down upon waves to you every night before bed. The people now loves you because they've now noticed the beauty in you. Please, Troy, don't let your anger take over you. You might just ruin what you've built up for years. You might lose your only chance of happiness. Sincerely, Oliver. So this was his way to try and convince Troy not to go through with his plan. Oliver is not very good with words, and especially he's not very good at feeling emotions, since he's unable to feel any sort of emotion. He doesn't really know how to, express himself. And while he might not be able to feel any sort of emotion, he's still able to see from right or wrong. And he doesn't want Troy to, make things worse for himself. Okay. Oliver leaves that page of the journal open before standing up and slowly leaving the room. Moments later, Troy walks out from the shower and sees that Oliver had left the package for him. He walks over to the box and starts to cut it open with a small knife he had in one of his drawers. But he stops halfway through as he looks down at his journal. He looks confused and picks it up to read it. Oliver? As he finishes, his hands tremble. Quietly, a tear falls down on the poem, making some of the ink bleed. Troy rubs his eyes with his arm. I'm sorry, Oliver. I've come too far to give up. I'm not backing down. It makes sense because Mahfouz's lyrics wanted to be a god and think life is shit so far. Yeah. Is it a zombie apocalypse or some kind of human story? No. Oh my god, my stomach. This is a disaster. Hikikimori would beat Troy in a knife fight. But yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna continue reading. I try to stop explaining, because it doesn't really matter at this point. A week later. It was a rainy day outside. The faint sound of thunder from far away could be heard from from far away could be heard from the half-open window in the kitchen, where JC and M was looking out. JC was holding her hand out to catch the little raindrops, holding them in her hand before licking them up. M gently nudged her arm and chuckled. No, don't! That's gross! They both laughed, before hearing their names being called out. They looked behind them, where Gary and Krem was finishing up the food. Girls, could the two of you go and alert the family dinner's ready? Sure thing, sure thing! The two girls jumped down from the windowsill and made their way around the house to tell everyone dinner was ready. Krem looked to Andrea, who was sitting at the counter with them in the kitchen as well. Andrea, honey, could you be sweetheart and help out setting the table? Sure, no problem. With the help of her parasites Ace and Ash, Andrea carried a bunch of plates to the table where she placed them all out. Alien was asked to help Krem with carrying all the food, while Gary was preparing a tray with food for their mother. Once M and JC had told everyone, they ran back downstairs and sat down at the table, eagerly waiting for permission to dig into Krem's delicious food. Everyone was slowly making their way downstairs, one after another. Eventually, the whole table was almost full. Only 3 people missing: Gary, Magnus, and Troy. Gary picked up the finished tray and made his way up to the stairs. On his way to their mother's room, he stopped by Magnus, where he was getting ready. The door was open from when JC and M had entered, Gary poking his head in to still check on him. "Hey Mag, did the girls tell you dinner's ready?" "Oh yes, they did. I'll be there in a minute. Just gotta finish my makeup and I'll be right there." "Awesome." He let Magnus' door stay open as he left, humming a tune as he walked through the corridors. Making his last turn around the corner, he saw a glimpse of Troy entering Rose's room. Confused, he looked at Gunther, who was equally confused. Quietly, Gary snuck into her room. Quietly, Gary snuck up to her room, leaning his back against the wall as he peeked inside. Troy was standing next to her bed, where she was sleeping, hovering over her. He lifted his hand to gently caress her pale cheek. He just stood there for a moment, staring down at her, when suddenly, splash. Within seconds, the entire bed along with the floor and walls were covered by blood. Troy had pierced her stomach, using his parasite Heath around his arm to drill into her flesh. He, too, was blood-drenched from head to toe. A big, satisfied grin spread across his face as he admired his work. Crash. Troy quickly turned around, alerted by the sound of metal and porcelain hitting the floor. He was met by Gary, who had dropped the tray with food for Rose. His body was trembling, eyes wide open, with a terrified look on his face, too scared to even breathe. As their eyes met as well, Gary tried to slowly back away from the room, but his knees became weak from the fear. He fell down on the floor, not being able to remove his eyes from the scene in front of him, pushing himself against the wall. With the only power he had left, he screamed at the top of his lungs. His screams echoed through the entire house. He was stopped by the feeling of throwing up. He held his hands over his mouth, trying not to vomit. Moments after, Magnus exited his room to see Gary sitting on the floor and quickly ran up to him. "Oh my God, Gary, what's wrong?" He cut himself off. The sight of the horrors in front of them took his words out of his mouth. He, too, stared up at Troy with terrified eyes. "What did you—" Troy had no shame, no regrets, and he was showing it off by the smirk on his face. Suddenly, he launched at the two, Magnus having to pull Gary out of the way since he was too scared to move on his own. He held Gary's hand as they both ran away, Troy following close after them. He tried to grab one of the two, and on the way down from the last pair of stairs, he was able to get a hold on to Gary. He jumped, making himself and Gary fall down the stairs, holding Gary down so he hit the floor when they landed. Troy was sitting on top of him, and with Heath still around his arm, he tried to kill Gary as well by drilling into him. In a desperate attempt to hold him back, Gary blocked Troy's attack with his bare hands. Troy was able to use Heath exactly like a drill. It was sharp enough to cut away at Gary's hands. He screamed for help before Magnus came and kicked Troy off of Gary. Troy lost his breath a bit from the kick and took a moment to regain it. He looked at Magnus with hatred before launching at him too, repeatedly trying to stab Magnus as well. Luckily, he was able to dodge and avoid Troy's attacks, but he didn't know how long he would be able to keep it up, so he too screamed for help. "Anyone, please, we need someone!" In the middle of one of Troy's attacks, someone grabbed onto his arms from behind and held him back. He struggled to break free, getting frustrated being held back. What in the actual fuck are you doing, Troy? Andrea shouted, also struggling to hold Troy at bay. Let me go. Out of nowhere, he let out a powerful energy burst which blasted her off of him. Much like a powerful whirlwind just entered the room, it swirled around Troy. Objects in the surrounding were moving around and falling over, making a big mess. Magnus had a hard time standing up, and Gary was struggling to stay in the same place on the floor. And Troy just laughed. He could take out the entire family right here and now if he wanted. And he was going to, until someone tugged on his shirt. Troy turned around, ready to fight whoever it was, but was filled with fear instead. The powerful energy force disappeared. The whole room was completely still again. Gary, Magnus, and Andrea looked up to what was going on. Oliver, He was struggling to come up with any reasonable explanation for all of this. He was so filled with hatred, only driven by emotions. He hadn't thought about what he would do. He hadn't thought about what he would say to Oliver once he went through with this plan of his. Seeing Oliver's face didn't make things better either. For the first time in his life, he witnessed Oliver expressing disgust. He didn't even look Troy in the eyes, just looked down while saying one single sentence. "I'm disappointed in you." Those words pierced through Troy's chest, cutting deep into his heart. He just stared at Oliver with wide and sad eyes. He then looked up to see the rest of his family staring at what was going on from the other room. His eyes landed on Jada. Seeing her looking at him with such sorrowful and disappointed eyes broke him even more than he could ever imagine. He hung his head over his shoulders, not saying another word, and he simply walked to the front door and left. His siblings and family watched him slowly leave the house. Gary was crying on the floor, clutching his hands together as they bled onto the floor. Krem ran up to Gary and immediately started to wrap his hands up in her apron. Magnus just stared blankly at the floor, not being able to take in what just happened. Andrea looked confused. What just happened exactly? The house was left in a dark, depressive atmosphere. This day was a day no one would ever forget. Pain. Here comes the hurt. I'm sorry. Hearing that would be so piercing from a family member. Yeah. Oh, I need a moment. My stomach hurts. Oh my god. The pain! The pain! Ow. I'll try to sit more straight, maybe. Okay. This could be a Tim Burton flick if he's good at directing again. Oh well. Okay. 3 days later. It's around 9 a.m. It's gray outside. Definitely going to rain soon. Fog is coming in from the lake behind the Baylor household. Alone in his room, Gary is getting ready. He puts on his suit and tightens his black tie around his neck. He flinches a bit, his scarred hands aching with the pain as they move around. Both of them were covered with bandages after Troy had cut his palms. He could still feel Troy cutting deep into his hands. The pain never left. He looks into the mirror in front of him, with a heavy head and blank cold eyes. Today is the day they say goodbye to their mother for good. They will put her coffin into the lake and set it on fire, just as she has wished to be. As Gary heard knocking, he turned around to face Magnus opening the door. "You ready to head out?" Magnus spoke in a low, monotone voice. Gary just looked down at the floor, simply nodding softly as a response. Magnus held his hand out to him, and as Gary walked out of the room, Magnus gently grabbed his arm and held him in comfort on their way down to the main floor. As they were about to leave the second floor, Oliver opened the door to his room. None of them said anything, just looked at each other before Magnus gave Oliver his hand as well. All three of them walked downstairs in silence to meet up with the others. This is actually really good storytelling. 10 minutes I would listen again. Oh, thank you. The house was unnaturally quiet. Only the cries of the newborn Tina could be heard as everyone was heading outside. Gary looked up from the ground to watch his entire family making their way to the lake. It was so surreal seeing the entire family walking at the same time through the garden wearing all black. As they arrived at the water, Gary looked back to see his father, along with everyone else's fathers, carrying the coffin containing their mother. His mind went blank, body frozen. It felt like time had stopped. Everyone cleared the way and made an opening for the fathers to get through to the water. They put the coffin down on a neatly pre-made raft and pushed it out into the water slightly. They all stared at the coffin before a bouquet of red roses was given to Oliver. He had been chosen to be the one to set the coffin on fire, since no one else had the heart to do it. Oliver slowly walked down into the water, his dress getting a bit wet on the edges as he stood next to the raft. As a breeze flew by, Oliver took out the lighter given to him and set the flowers on fire, holding the bouquet out away from his body, letting the fire grow, before throwing it onto the coffin. "Goodbye, Mother." The coffin was set on fire as he pushed the raft further into the lake. As the flames grew bigger, the image of Rose's dead blood-drenched body once again reappeared in Gary's head. The realization hadn't made its way to him until he watched the coffin of his beloved mother burn in the middle of the lake. This was it. She was truly gone. Within seconds, he fell to his knees and screamed at the top of his lungs, clenching his wounded hands hard against his chest. He cried and screamed until he couldn't breathe. He was the first to break the silence. Only moments later, after, did everyone else join him. Oliver turned around and looked at his whole family crying in agony with wide eyes. Even those who never cried were crying. The only ones who weren't crying were himself and Alexis. She was staring down at her feet, completely dissociated from the scene. Her entire body was shaking. She wasn't sad. She was furious. All she could think about was Troy, and how much she despised him for what he did. Not just for taking Rose, but for taking their father, Baron, away from her. For a split second, Oliver felt something, a heavy feeling pressing against his chest. He felt a cold feeling in his stomach, almost as if someone hit him in the gut. He watched Gary cry for a moment, before stepping out of the water, getting down on his knees in front of him. He raised his hand and gently stroked his hand on Gary's head. "I'm sorry. I feel somewhat responsible for what happened. I knew what Troy was planning, and yet I couldn't do anything to stop it. Gary lifted his head, looking at Oliver, and was met with an unusual sight. Oliver wasn't one to give off any sort of facial expressions whatsoever, and yet he could have sworn he looked sad. Out of everyone, I was the one with the biggest chance to change him, and yet I felt stuck on what to do. So while I tried to stop him, it wasn't good enough. Gary's eyes widened. I'm sorry, Gary. Without hesitation, Gary pulled Oliver in for a hug, tightly holding him as he cried. Oliver's eyes widened even more, as he was surprised by the sudden reaction. "It's not your fault! It's not your fault!" he cried. Oliver, just motionless, listened to Gary cry out those words over and over again. And yet again, for a split second, he felt something different this time. While being held in Gary's arms, he felt a warm feeling in his chest. It was still heavy, yet comforting in a way. Oliver reached his hands up finally and hugged Gary back, stroking his hands on his back. "Thank you." Oh, that was... People be driving like crazy outside my house whenever I'm live or trying to record. And that was all of those. That was all of that script. Let's see. It's magnum opus. In all seriousness, it's a good story. Way better than Twilight. It's a good read to get into. Very emotional. 100. Thank you. The tension is killing my stomach. Oh, I cannot wait to be a series. You're too sweet. Oh, God. I mean, making it an animated series is a dream of mine, but, you know, baby steps, baby steps. God, my stomach hurts like fucking hell. I'm sorry for this awkward angle, but I need to collect myself. I need to lean back, because my stomach is giving me huge fucking issues right now. You get to see my beautiful face up close. Hi. I look completely different without my glasses. Anyways. Yeah. I spent a lot of time on it. This script specifically, I'm very proud of. You inspire me to start writing again, so right now I'm writing a small story. Oh. Stop! You guys are gonna make me cry. Oh my god. I wish I could, like, maybe I can, I don't know. I don't know why, I've started to get stomach issues. Wait. Instead of isekai trash, we found a master. Oh. Well, I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna finish writing the whole thing, because there's a bunch of details that I haven't even brought up yet, because it's so much. Like, for example, Rose has a sister,
too, which is actually Alexis' mother. It's a whole fucking I've been wanting to like make a stream or something with Harsh Opinions, who is the creator of Alexis, because she has helped me a lot with the writing because she's a writer, and she made Alexis the character for my story, and it'd be a lot of fun talking with her about the ideas that we have. Right, I guess I could read that too. Again, it's just a bunch of sad stuff, I'm sorry. Where is it? Here. So, oh, wait, I see a typo. Okay, here we go. Hello. This is another sad one. Since this was based off of the idea that when you die, you kind of have a last dream, like a comforting dream that will make it easier to rest in peace when you die, basically. I really like that idea. That, something about how your brain releases those hormones as we die, too. So we get that last dream. And when Rose died, this is like the dream that she had as she drifted in to, forever sleeping. That is death. Okay. Hello? It was dark. Rose was walking with no direction. Rose was walking with no directions in what she was assuming was a weird room. Hold up. She couldn't even see her own hands in front of her face. Reaching, she was hoping to find a light switch. She was barefoot, and she could feel what felt like grass underneath her feet. She suddenly heard a familiar voice call out for her. It was faint at first, but became louder and more clear the closer she got. Rose! In a flash, everything was brought to light. She covered her face for a second and slowly opened her eyes to get used to the light. When she was able to see, she was surprised. She was standing in a field of beautiful flowers of all kinds. The feeling of the petals and grass underneath her feet, the warm, comforting sunlight, and the fresh air, all brought a smile on her face. Rose. She looked around to see who the mysterious voice was, and laid her eyes on a purple-haired girl behind her. Violet? The girl, named Violet, smiled at Rose with teary eyes. The both of them stared into each other's eyes for a moment before rushing into each other's arms. My dear sister, I've missed you so much. The two sisters hugged each other tightly, sobbing in each other's shoulders. They cried for what felt like hours before coming back to their senses and pulled away from the hug to look at each other. What happened to you? Why are you here? Violet asked with concern. Rose was confused. She didn't even know what here was. I can't remember what happened, but if you are here, it must mean I'm dead. It got silent. The wind stopped as well. Rose didn't remember any detail of how she got here, but she do remember the death of her sister. Violet had died many years ago. 28 years to be exact. You seem calm. Are you okay with that fact? Rose smiled a content smile. Honestly, I am. My life was a pitiful one. Bedbound, desperate, to incubating eggs in hopes I could save her species. While I loved each and every child I gave birth to, for each child I got, the greater the pain became. It was torture. Violet started to tear up again. I was never able to be there for any of them. I was only a burden all of them had to take care of. I wasn't able to be a mother, even though I so desperately wanted to. Rose still had a calm smile on her face, even when she spoke such sad words. Won't you miss them? Aren't you sad? Of course I will, but my job is done. It's finally over. I can now rest from this constant suffering. They don't have to worry about little old me anymore. I'm free. Rose fell backwards onto the flowers, making the petals fly everywhere and get in her hair. Her sister laid down next to her, looking up at the clear blue sky before both of them closed their eyes for the last time. Sleep tight, my sweet sister. And that was that too. Whew. Yeah. Sad stuff, sad stuff. I love sad stuff. I'm so tired. What time is it? It's not even that much. It's because my stomach hurts. Alright, joke shine. What's the combination of pickle and cucumber? Pickle bear? Pickle. Haha. I don't get it, because I'm dumb. I have a small peanut brain. I'm tired. Ow. It hurts. This was honestly a disaster. I was just in the mood to read some stuff. I didn't even plan on how to make this, but I guess it worked out pretty well. It's not that late. It's 8:30 p.m. I go with the what is it called? Oh. Huh? Wait, why does it do that? Oh my god, why did I just get deja vu? Holy fucking shit. Oh my god. Dude. That was freaky. Deja vu. I've been in this place before. Why does it do that? Hello? FBI, are you watching me through my phone?
Are you interested in my stories too? If you would like to fund me, I'd appreciate it. Maybe some hacker or something. Rotation? Yeah. Is that it? I don't think so. What I wanted to share was I used the, what is it called? Can you, oh my god, can you stop? Fuck it. I used like the clock that says 21:27. Aww. Thanks, Neko. I sleep now. But that it's how come the camera picks it up, but the eye doesn't? Oh my god. Some alien trying to contact me. It's probably some reasonable explanation or something. I'm just making jokes, so you know, I'm not. I'm just. Why does it do that? I don't think it's the camera. Anyways, I'm really dumb. I have a small brain. And I don't know what to do anymore. I should have planned this. My stomach's hurting too. Obviously, I'm gonna make videos in the future where I read this again and where I explain the story in a much better way. This wasn't like good at all. I'm so bad at explaining my story without a proper script because it is a very like complicated story. It is a lot of details that I need to include for it to make sense. So then when I talk about it, people easily get lost because they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. The fuck is a beast knoth? What is a susig? What are all these words? You know? It's like fucking Genshin Impact throwing all those words like millilith, chisang, you know, the hilichurls. But yeah, I don't know what to do with it anymore, so I'm gonna head out, I guess, for tonight. I don't know if I'll keep. I'll unlist this or something, because this is embarrassing. Anyways, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you being here, even though I am socially awkward, and just a completely dumb person. But yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.